In the shadow of a mist-laden mountain, Hiro arrives at Master Ren's secluded dojo. His mind races, scattered like leaves in a storm. He believes skill alone will make him unstoppable. Ren watches quietly, his presence calm, unshakable. "Oh, the world is full of distraction," he says. But the warrior who masters his attention conquers all. Hiro's first lesson is simple, yet brutal. Nothing outside can be controlled until the mind is anchored. He is forbidden to draw a sword or strike a target. Instead, he sits, he breathes. He watches the restless tides of his own thoughts crash against the cliffs of discipline. Moments stretch, silences weigh heavy, and every impulse to flee or act is met with patient stillness. The dojo becomes a crucible, and Hiro learns the first secret of Zanshin. Focus is not a tool, it is a state of being. Here begins a journey of attention, courage, and transformation. Each challenge is not a test of speed, strength, or skill, but of presence, of the ability to dissolve distraction before it dissolves you. Hiro will discover that the most powerful weapon is invisible. The path is silent, the lessons harsh, and the victories internal. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share, so I can keep bringing you great content. Chapter 1. The mind that scatters. Hiro arrived at the mountain dojo at first light, his steps light, but restless. His body was trained, his movements precise, yet his mind was fractured, chasing outcomes before the present moment had even unfolded. Every task he approached carried urgency, impatience, a silent demand for instant mastery. He had fought many battles, won trophies of skill, yet an invisible weight dragged at his spirit. Master Ren, observing quietly from the wooden veranda, saw this and said nothing. "You think the sword can fix what is broken inside?" Ren finally spoke, his voice calm yet carrying the weight of centuries. "But the fiercest opponent lives in the mind. Until you meet him, no skill will serve you." Hiro's fingers itched for the hilt of his sword. Every instinct demanded action. Yet Ren forbade it. No weapons, no striking, no challenge from without, only stillness. Only the silent war within. The first days were agony. Hiro's thoughts leapt from one fear to another. The fear of failure, of not being enough, of being unseen. He hated the quiet. He hated himself for hating it. His body, trained for combat, ached from inactivity, while his mind raced in endless loops. Every attempt to escape, walking, pacing, fidgeting, was met with Ren's unyielding presence. Ren taught him posture first. Every breath, every stance carried intention. "Notice the gaps in your attention," he instructed. "Your mind scatters, yet your body moves. Align them, or you remain a restless blade, sharp but uncontrolled." Hiro learned to sit hour after hour observing his thoughts like leaves drifting on a river. He noted the compulsions, the craving for recognition, the impatience, the judgment he cast on himself. He realized that his skill had been hollow, wielded by a mind that never paused. Strength without awareness, Ren explained, is no different from a leaf in the storm, fleeting, directionless, powerless. The days stretched into weeks. Hiro's hands stilled, his heartbeat slowed. He noticed the rhythm of his own breath, and for the first time saw his mind as something to be guided, not punished. Ren introduced the first lesson of the Zanshin system. Control begins with awareness. Presence is cultivated through patience, repetition, and mindful attention. Mastery is not demanded, it is earned in the silent crucible of focus. Hiro began simple tasks under Ren's instruction, arranging firewood, sweeping the veranda, polishing the wooden floors. Each act demanded his full attention. One motion at a time, one breath at a time. At first his mind wandered, frustrated by the banality. Yet gradually, moments emerged when thought vanished, leaving only pure action, seamless and precise. Through this, Hiro glimpsed a truth he had long avoided. The most dangerous battles are never against others, but against the mind's impulses. Every distraction, every scattered thought, every unchecked emotion was an enemy more ruthless than any sword. Confronting it required humility, patience, and courage. By the end of the first week, Hiro felt subtle changes. He no longer reached for movement as a refuge. He sat, observing, waiting. The restlessness was still there, but it no longer controlled him. The storm within had not disappeared. It had been noticed, measured, and understood. Strength began to grow where discipline and awareness met. Hiro lifted his eyes to the mountain peaks, seeing the dawn break slowly over the horizon. He realized that he had glimpsed the first principle of the warrior's path. Mastery of the mind precedes mastery of technique. The sword could wait. The world could wait. The silent war within demanded his full presence first. Hiro followed Master Ren through the narrow mountain path, the early morning mist curling around moss-covered stones. The air was crisp, almost painfully pure, and the silence weighed heavier than any sword. They arrived at a secluded pond, its surface smooth and unbroken, reflecting not the trees above, but the state of the mind below. Ren called it the mirror of attention. "Look closely," Ren said, his tone even yet piercing. "What do you see?" Hiro leaned over, expecting to see his face, but the pond offered something different. The reflection shifted with thought. Every fear, insecurity, and unacknowledged desire rippled across the water. His pride, his compulsion to prove himself, even the subtle anxiety of not being enough, each surfaced unmasked and raw. Hiro felt humiliation prick at his chest. He wanted to look away, to deny the images, but Ren's gaze held him steady. The mind is not tamed by force, Ren instructed. A distraction does not come from the world. It rises from what you fail to see in yourself. Hiro swallowed, struggling to hold his attention on the pond. His thoughts leapt, judgments, plans, regrets, anticipations, but with Ren's silent guidance, he began noticing each without reacting. Each breath anchored him. He realized the mind's impulses were like clouds drifting across the sky, ever present, but only the observer decides whether to be carried along. Ren introduced the first exercise of the Zanshin system for the mind, observing without attachment. A name, the distraction. Breathe. Watch it fade. Awareness is your weapon. Hiro practiced, slowly, deliberately, painfully. Every observation revealed more layers: fear of failure, fear of irrelevance, craving for approval, and even subtle arrogance masquerading as confidence. Hours stretched into stillness. Hiro's chest rose and fell, his gaze unwavering. For the first time, he noticed patterns. A thought always followed a fear. A judgment always followed pride. The mirror reflected more than emotions. It revealed the architecture of the mind itself. He saw where attention fractured, where energy dissipated, and where true focus could grow. Ren then guided him through controlled breathing and posture alignment. Your body shapes the mind as much as the mind shapes your body. A scattered mind cannot act decisively. A grounded body feeds attention. Hiro practiced walking, bowing, and sitting, synchronizing motion with awareness. Even mundane actions became tests of concentration, mini battles against his inner chaos. By midday, the pond's reflection had begun to stabilize. Hiro noticed clarity creeping into perception. The inner noise that once demanded constant reaction was quieter. He felt a subtle power forming, the ability to respond rather than react, to see rather than assume, to act with intention rather than impulse. Ren spoke softly, almost to himself. Fear is not your enemy, it is a compass. Distraction is not your foe, it is your teacher. Mastery begins when attention becomes deliberate. Only then does action carry weight. Hiro exhaled, the tension in his shoulders loosening. He understood that true focus was not a heroic effort, but a quiet discipline. The world outside could wait. Mastery began inward. Each thought observed, each impulse noticed, each fear confronted chipped away at his fragmented attention. The pond had revealed the invisible battlefield, the restless mind. The afternoon passed, and Hiro remained by the water, immersed in the simple yet profound practice of noticing. He began to see the flow of thought, the rise and fall of emotion, and the spaces between impulses where true presence lived. Attention, he realized, was a muscle that could be trained. With each moment of deliberate focus, strength quietly accumulated. By evening, Hiro no longer felt humiliation or resistance. The mind that had scattered like wind through trees had begun to settle, even if only slightly. Ren's silent teaching had imparted its first profound truth. Clarity, like water, must be reflected, observed, and undisturbed to reveal its depth. Distraction, unchecked, had been his weakness. Awareness, cultivated, would become his strength. The day at the mirror of attention ended not with celebration, but with a profound understanding. The mind is the battlefield, focus the weapon, and presence the armor. Hiro felt a quiet resolve stir within him, the first genuine flicker of unshakable attention. The morning air was sharp, carrying the scent of damp earth and pine, as Hiro stepped into the dojo courtyard. Today, no swords waited, no demonstrations of skill, only the weight of repetition, the quiet rhythm of work, and Master Ren's unwavering gaze. You will sweep, Ren instructed. Again and again, no haste, no thought of reward. Hiro's pride bristled. He had arrived at the dojo seeking mastery, combat, and recognition. How could sweeping floors, hauling water, tending gardens, and serving novices sharpen a warrior? Yet, Ren's eyes offered no argument, only expectation. Hiro gritted his teeth and began. One sweep, one step, each movement deliberate, controlled yet painfully slow. He imagined himself striking down an opponent with the same focus, but the task before him remained unglamorous. Still, his mind resisted. Impatience rose like fire in his chest, ego whispering that he was wasting time, that greatness was elsewhere. Ren approached silently, standing as a shadow behind Hiro's concentrated movements. The sword obeys the mind, he said quietly. The mind obeys the heart. The heart obeys discipline. Flow begins when pride steps aside. Saro's hands ached, muscles stiffened, yet he continued. Slowly, something began to shift. His attention, once scattered, found a rhythm. Each sweep became an anchor, each step a lesson. He realized that skill was not only in technique, but in presence, in the deliberate execution of the mundane. The repetitive labor stripped away the illusions of grandeur, leaving him bare before reality. By midday, Hiro had carried water to the top of the dojo's steep stairs, tended the gardens meticulously, and returned repeatedly, his hands calloused, muscles fatigued, yet his mind strangely calm. The monotony, once intolerable, had become a mirror, reflecting impatience, ego, and desire for recognition. These thoughts, once commanding, now began to dissolve in the simple cadence of action. Rin spoke as Hiro rested briefly, sweat cooling on his brow. Emu no kokoro, he intoned. The empty heart. It is here, in these ordinary acts, that mastery is born. The mind that clings to ego cannot grasp skill. The heart that seeks praise cannot know focus. Hiro frowned, struggling to internalize. It seemed paradoxical. Greatness lay not in flashy technique or recognition, but in the repetitive, humbling tasks of daily life. Yet as hours passed, moments emerged where thought ceased entirely. He did not plan. He did not judge. He merely moved, swept, watered, served. Each act executed fully became meditation in motion. A subtle awareness crept into his senses. The rustle of the leaves, the scent of damp soil, the weight of the broom in his hands, all became part of the moment. Hiro realized that distraction faded not with willpower, but with immersion. Attention, once fragmented, began to coalesce, anchored in the deliberate execution of simple tasks. By evening, Hiro's body ached, but his mind was lighter. The relentless pursuit of recognition had softened. Repetition had humbled him, revealing the invisible foundation of mastery, discipline, presence, and patience. He understood, finally, that no skill could be perfected without character. No strength could endure without the quiet labor that forges the mind. Ren observed silently, approving yet unspoken. Hiro bowed not in formal ritual, but in acknowledgement of a deeper truth. Greatness is cultivated in humility, repetition, and presence. One cannot skip the mundane without fracturing the mind. One cannot command skill without commanding Through the sweat, monotony, and quiet surrender of ego, Hiro glimpsed a profound shift. The restless, scattered mind that had accompanied him to the dojo began to settle, focus sharpening in ways subtle, yet irreversible. The mundane had become the teacher, repetition the forge, and humility the blade that cut through distraction. The day concluded not with applause, but with the silent understanding that the path of the warrior was built upon the small, uncelebrated victories of mind and heart. The empty heart had begun to take root, and with it, the true foundation of unshakable focus. The mountain moaned under the force of a rising storm. Rain lashed against the dojo's wooden beams, and wind tore through the pines with relentless fury. Hiro followed Master Ren through narrow corridors, past flickering lanterns until they reached the Hall of Stillness. A cavernous chamber, cold, empty, and silent except for the storm's distant roar. "Ace it," Ren commanded. No task, no movement. Observe. Hero's pulse quicken. No sweeping, no water, no garden labor, only him and the emptiness of the night. His mind recoiled instinctively. It wanted to plan, to act, to flee. Every fear, every unspoken thought rose like shadows from the depths of his consciousness. The hall magnified them. Doubt, impatience, the compulsion to prove worth. It was an arena, but the opponents were invisible. Minutes became hours, yet time itself seemed irrelevant. Hyro's breathing grew shallow, then deepened, echoing Ren's earlier teaching. As stillness is the forge of focus, Ren's words reverberated in his mind. Attention is honed where motion ceases and the self confronts itself. Fear emerged first. Fear of uselessness, fear of insignificance, fear of being no one without achievement. Each wave threatened to overwhelm, yet Hyro learned to simply witness it. The shadows of his mind, the regrets, the pride, the restless ego, could not be destroyed through action. Only through presence could they be understood, observed, and released. The night demanded honesty, no excuses. No distractions. Memories of past failures flickered like phantom flames, tempting him to retreat into anger or self-pity. Desire stirred, the urge to imagine glory, to anticipate recognition. But here, in this chamber, the mind could not escape. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within. Hyro's hands clenched and unclenched, his body rigid, but his breathing guided him. One thought at a time, he named each impulse, watched it, and let it pass. The compulsive need to act began to dissolve. For the first time, he understood that distraction was a symptom of fear, and fear only held dominion when attention fled. Hours passed without measure. Hyro became aware of the texture of the hall, the cool stone beneath him, the faint smell of pine from the storm, the distant drip of water echoing in rhythm with his heartbeat. In these small details, he anchored presence, noticing sensations without judgment. Stillness was no longer torment. It was a teacher patient and exacting. By midnight, fatigue pressed against him, yet clarity began to seep in. Thoughts no longer demanded attention. They were observed, then released. Fear transformed into insight, chaos into calm. The compulsion to act, once relentless, was replaced by a serene vigilance. Hyro discovered that stillness was not absence. It was a crucible where awareness fused with courage, shaping the unshakable mind. As the storm outside waned and the first hints of dawn crept along the mountainside, Hyro's posture remained steady. The night had tested him, stripped him bare, and forged a new internal rhythm. Every shadow confronted, every impulse witnessed without attachment, had strengthened the foundation of focus and discipline. The restless mind that had plagued him was now anchored, capable of observing without reacting, commanding without forcing. The Hall of Stillness had revealed the ultimate lesson. Mastery begins where action ends. Fear is not defeated through aggression, but through attention. Distraction fades when the mind remains anchored in the moment. Hyro emerged from the hall physically exhausted, yet his spirit carried a clarity that no external accolade could provide. He understood that the battlefield was not outside. It was within. And victory required neither weapons nor combat, only the courage to witness oneself fully. Rin's voice greeted him silently in memory. The unbroken warrior acts not from impulse, but from presence. The night of stillness is your forge. Emerge tempered, aware and unshakable. Hyro stepped into the morning light. No grand celebration, only the quiet resonance of a mind that had faced itself and survived. In the emptiness, he found his center. In silence, he found power. In stillness, he began to wield focus as a weapon sharper than any blade. The dawn air was crisp, carrying the scent of wet pine and stone, a reminder of the storm Hyro had endured the night before. The mountain seemed quieter now, though still alive with the whisper of wind and the drip of lingering rain. Hyro followed Master Ren to the training grounds, his body weary, yet his mind alert, calm and anchored. The restless impulses that had driven him to impatience and scattered action were now subdued, replaced by a stillness that carried weight and intention. Today, Ren said, we move with awareness, not haste. Skill without presence is only noise. Hiro grasped the meaning immediately. The sword in his hand felt different. It was no longer just a weapon, but an extension of his attention, a mirror of his disciplined mind. Ren demonstrated a simple strike. Slow, deliberate, almost imperceptible in its beginning, yet explosive in impact when fully committed. Every muscle was engaged, every breath synchronized with intention. Observe first, act second, Ren reminded him. The unshakable warrior is present in every movement. The distracted mind is defeated before it even moves. Hiro began to practice. His first strikes were tentative, hesitant, echoing the impulsive haste he once could not suppress. But with each repetition, he felt the flow between mind, body, and spirit, an alignment that turned ordinary effort into potent action. Each swing was no longer a mere attempt to hit a target. It was a meditation, a conversation between his awareness and the physical world. Ren's lessons extended beyond the blade. Every step, every pivot, every measured motion became a focus drill, a reinforcement of presence. Hiro discovered that calm attention increased both speed and efficiency without strain. His perception sharpened. He noticed the subtle shifts in Ren's stance, the barely audible movement of leaves, the shift in air as the wind changed direction. This heightened awareness was the hidden edge of the Zanshin system. Action was empowered not by force but by deliberate, anchored attention. Mist lifted slowly from the valley below, and Hiro's strikes began to carry a quiet authority. They were precise, powerful, and economical. No wasted motion, no frantic energy, no scattered thought. Strength without tension, power without distraction. Every movement was a lesson in focus. The sword cut not only through targets but through the mental fog that had previously dulled his perception. Ren observed silently, occasionally offering a brief correction, a tilt of the wrist, a pause in the stance, but mostly allowing Hiro to experience the natural rhythm of deliberate action. Hiro understood now that mastery was not an overwhelming effort, but in disciplined presence. Effort alone had once scattered his skill. Now presence amplified it beyond what he had imagined possible. He practiced for hours, the sun climbing higher, warming his shoulders, and casting long shadows across the training grounds. Each strike, each stance reinforced a pattern of mindful engagement. The lessons of the night of stillness had translated into tangible action. Fear no longer disrupted, ego no longer distracted. Shiro was discovering the power of calm efficiency, the kind of skill that did not shout, but simply was. Ren finally spoke, his voice steady and low. A strength without focus is wasted. Focus without action is hollow. Only when the two unite does the warrior become unbreakable. Hiro absorbed this, feeling the resonance deep within him. The fusion of attention and movement transformed him. The previously scattered warrior now acted with a precision and clarity that seemed effortless. That was the result of unwavering discipline and conscious effort. Every swing, every step, every breath became an expression of mastery. Not for recognition or applause, but as a natural extension of presence. Hiro realized that the true path of the unbroken warrior was not marked by victories over others, but by the internal alignment of mind, body, and spirit. Distraction no longer held sway. Awareness was his instrument, and every action reflected the disciplined mind that had been forged through patience, humility, and silence. The morning deepened into afternoon, and Hiro's practice concluded. He lowered his sword, breathing steadily, feeling both exhaustion and exhilaration. The movements had become effortless yet potent. He understood that this state, strength born of presence, was the essence of the Zanshin system. Every future strike, every decision, every choice could carry the same clarity and unshakable power if he maintained the discipline of attention. Hiro's eyes met Ren's. No words were necessary. The lesson was complete. The restless warrior had been transformed. The body was strong, the mind sharp, the spirit anchored. Presence had become the source of strength, and strength had become the expression of unwavering attention. The air was crisp with the scent of pine and earth, and the morning sun gilded the mountain peaks in soft gold. Yaro stood at the edge of the training grounds, the dojo behind him quiet, almost reverent in its stillness. The months of relentless practice, silent meditation, and disciplined repetition had left their mark. He felt a quiet power in his chest, not loud or showy, but steady and absolute, a presence anchored in awareness and purpose. This was the culmination of the Zanshin system, mastery that no one could see, yet that nothing could shake. Master Ren approached, walking with measured steps, The world beyond this mountain will not recognize your skill, hero, he said. No applause, no medals, no words of praise. True mastery is invisible. Hero nodded, understanding more deeply than ever that the journey had never been about recognition. It was about control over the mind, clarity in thought, and alignment of action. The unbroken warrior's power was silent, manifest only in precise, deliberate choices. Hiro reflected on his journey. The restless mind that could not stay with one task, the mirror of attention revealing fear and insecurity, the humbling repetition of mundane chores, the stormy night in the hall of stillness, and finally, the fusion of presence and action. Each step had been deliberate, each lesson exacting. Now, the restless impulses that once scattered him were gone, replaced by calm attention and focused energy. The Zanshin system had reshaped his mind as much as his movements. It continued, a distraction is the enemy, Hiro. Attention is your weapon. It is the tool that allows you to move through the world unshakable, regardless of circumstance. Hiro understood that this was not merely training for combat or skill. It was training for life itself. Every decision, every encounter, every task could be approached with the same deliberate presence. Work, conflict, study, or meditation all became expressions of discipline applied in real time. The noise of life, the chatter of people, the endless pull of distractions was no longer threatening. Each breath, each movement was deliberate, each choice anchored in the unbroken focus he had cultivated. His vision had sharpened, perception widened. Subtle cues and shifts that once went unnoticed now registered with clarity. Strength was no longer a matter of force, but of mindful application. Hiro recalled the lessons of fear and humility. The mirror of attention had shown him his vulnerabilities, and the night of stillness had revealed that the true battle was within. Each act of disciplined repetition had trained him to move with patience and awareness. Now these lessons merged into a seamless understanding. Mastery is not measured in outcomes or applause, but in internal coherence, deliberate action, and unwavering focus. Life beyond the dojo would present challenges. Moments of chaos, conflict, and temptation to revert to old, scattered habits. But Hiro carried with him an invisible advantage, a mind unbroken by distraction, a spirit unshaken by circumstance. Presence had become both shield and sword. Each interaction, each task, became a test of his internal discipline, an opportunity to express the silent mastery of the Zanshin system. He walked along the narrow mountain path, the valley opening before him, a world of movement, sound, and light. Each step was deliberate yet effortless. The warrior who once chased results, recognition, and external validation now moved through the world with calm certainty. His mastery was invisible, but absolute. The unshakable mind that had been forged in silence and stillness now guided every action. As Hiro stepped beyond the mountain, he realized the final truth. The greatest victories are internal, unseen, yet unbreakable. Distraction had been conquered not by force, but by presence. Fear had been dissolved not by avoidance, but by attentive observation. Strength had emerged not from haste, but from deliberate, mindful action. The path of the unbroken warrior is silent, yet it shapes every moment of life. Hiro breathed deeply, feeling the fusion of mind, body, and spirit. The unbroken warrior walks unseen, yet unstoppable through every challenge, carrying the invisible power of focus, discipline, and presence. He had mastered not the world, but himself. The unshakable warrior conquers not the world, but the mind, presence, discipline, and focus render distraction powerless.